Hello everyone, and let's dive into Am I the Butthole subreddit, where a grown-up man is threatening his wife to tell on her to his mummy. The first story is by Friendly Brain 4065. Am I the butthole for telling my boyfriend his friend needs to get over herself? My boyfriend of 1 year has a very small friend group. It's him, his 2 guy best friends and their girlfriends, and one other girl who's their friend. His female friend has never shown any issue with my existence or presence. She's more close to my boyfriend than the other guys, but she still hangs out with everyone. Like the other girlfriends, I regularly hang out with the group and there has never been an issue. As long as all the other girlfriends are around, why shouldn't I be, right? Well, recently, for some reason, it became an issue for my boyfriend's female friend. According to my boyfriend, she complained to him that she feels like she's third-wheeling all the couples in the friend group and asked him to stop bringing me around so he'll keep her company. Once my boyfriend told me this, my reply was, why does she expect you to stop bringing me around? Would she ask the other guys to stop bringing their girlfriends around, or if that was a special request just for you? He said she only asked it of him because he's her closest friend in the group. I said it's unreasonable and she needs to get over herself. It's unfair of me to be excluded when everyone else gets to spend time with their partners. He says I'm right and her demand is unreasonable and weird, but the other guys agreed with that female friend and said it's unfair to her to be left out and my boyfriend should make this sacrifice since he's closer to her. I told my boyfriend and the guys that she needs to get over herself, and I'm not okay with that in any way because it will be like my boyfriend is feeling the void of her not having a partner. Well, long story short, I was called a butthole somehow and I got accused of not respecting their friendship. Am I the butthole? The next story is by Platform Airplane 114. Am I the butthole for saying no to my brother's request to winter on my property with his van? I have a brother who lives as a nomad in his van full-time and travels all over the country. With winter coming up, he wants to spend the winter here where I live. He says he has some court fines to pay off and he's running low on money in general, so he wants to park here while he figures things out. His request included parking in my driveway and using my bathroom, washing machine and things as needed for the next 5 months. I said no, as there are several problems with this. First, in both my state and city, camping in residential areas and sleeping overnight is illegal. Also, my wife is pregnant and due in April. My brother wants to stay until April. I don't have room for him in the house unless he slept on the couch, but I don't want my wife to have a stress or a stranger in the house during this time. My brother sleeps all day, drinks and smokes grass to excess, and is a slob. He's free to live how he wants and I don't argue or try to stop him, but that doesn't mean I want it here. He asked me and I said no. He won't lay it off and has already gotten my parents into the asking me. Apparently, winter will be hard for him if he cannot winter here. My parents gave him my address even though I told them not to. Is it a terrible thing for me to deny his request as he's a family and this is his best option? Anyway, I am 34, so is my wife, and my brother is 33, and my parents are in their 50s. My brother has lived as a nomad for the last 15 years. He gets money from odd jobs, other legal and not hustles, and from my parents when they can afford it. Apparently, they are tapped out now and want me to jump in to help. The next story is by Strange Impulse 118. Am I the butthole for telling my mother that I wouldn't have been so late to school if I wasn't so busy being a parent? I live with my sister, my mother, my grandfather, my younger brother, and my cat. My mother works at a veterinarian, so she's the main breadwinner of the house, which I really appreciate of her. I work at a fast food place and have found myself absolutely swamped with things. I have school and work, I'm in charge of breakfast and dinner, in charge of grocery shopping and making sure the house is clean and the laundry is done. I am frequently late for school because I have to drive my brother to school and sometimes have to leave early for work. My mother is so exhausted by the time she gets home from work that she just either goes to sleep or plays her Sims game. My sister is in college, so she doesn't have a lot of time to do anything. But I'm just so frustrated that I have to care for my younger brother and my half-senile grandfather and the cat while juggling everything else. I was late for school today again, and the school called my mother, who was expectedly pissed at me. We began to argue because she expected better than this, and I told her that if I wasn't so busy being a parent, then I wouldn't have been late to school. I think I struck a nerve, and she looked close to tears and told me that I have to learn how to be an adult somehow. And she's just trying to teach me responsibility, and that I was acting like a child, which made me feel real bad. She works really hard, and I feel like what I said was maybe out of line. The next story is by Bloom Doom. Am I the butthole for chopping down the trees in my backyard, even though my neighbor liked them and asked me not to? So, our new neighbors renovated their backyard around 3 months ago, not long after they moved in. They added a pool, a hammock, a built-in grill, a bar. They basically made a resort in their own backyard. Our backyard has grass and a bunch of tall palm trees that are right behind their fence. So lately, a few of the dead leaves of our palm trees have been falling into their backyard, which wasn't an issue with the old neighbors. They rarely brought it up and we were always apologetic. The thing is, we've been considering getting rid of our palm trees for a couple years because of the maintenance and also because we never spent time in our backyard. So when the neighbors started throwing the leaves back into our yard and yelling at us to be responsible, we decided it was time to cut them down. They didn't like this idea either. They said when they were planning their backyard, they were considering our trees as a part of their scenery and that without the trees, it would take away from their backyard. They also said that there isn't enough space for them to plant their own trees, so they offered to pay us for someone to come to our house to maintain our trees. This would usually be really nice, but at this point we were set on taking down the trees and we also didn't want to form a relationship with the neighbors because they were very rude and we would feel like we owed them if they paid for the maintenance. So 2 days ago we cut down the trees and now they are furious, complaining to all the other neighbors, blasting us on the neighborhood forum and giving out our address. They told us that we are not being neighborly and that we are selfish. We told them that it's our property and we can do whatever we want with it. And they should have been responsible when they decided not to put trees in their yard. So, are we the buttholes? The next story is by SaiBump622. Am I the butthole for telling my wife she can't get rid of the dog? 15 months ago, my new wife told me she wanted a dog. I had been told by my stepchildren and her longtime friends that my wife has a long history of wanting a dog more than anything in the world, then finding a new home for the dog when she gets tired of it. Also, she has the worst case of ADHD I've ever seen in an adult. After a long conversation, she assured me that that wouldn't happen, so I explained how much I love dogs and that she couldn't make a dog part of my family and then take it away. She promised. Fast forward a few months and the newest wore off for her as my affection grew for our dog. He's not perfect. Even after more than a year, we can't get him to consistently poop outside, but he's such a happy and affectionate puppy. Without consulting me first, my wife spent $2,000 on a new dog last summer. As her interest in the new dog grew, her disdain for our first dog also grew. She wants to get rid of the first dog. I've told her she made him part of my family and now I'm a package deal which includes him, so he's not going anywhere. She thinks I'm a butthole for not standing by her. Am I the butthole? The next story is by Throra. Am I the butthole for faking sleep to make my husband get up with the baby? My husband and I have a 6-month-old boy. Husband and I are in agreement about chores and everything. We do everything equally, except I used to have this one issue, and that's getting up with my son at night. He'd leave his task to me, claiming he's too tired to get out of bed. Every time my son wakes up at night, which is 3 to 4 times a night, I'd wake up husband and ask him if he want to get up with the baby. But he'd say since I was awake then I should do it. Every single time since our son was born. I had enough, so I started faking sleep whenever our son wakes up. It worked for an entire week when husband would wake up when our son started crying, and then he would look at me while I was fake sleeping and quietly start whispering, "Hey, hey, hey," but I kept pretending to be asleep. My husband then would sign and mumble something and then get out of bed to see the baby. He started asking me about my excessive sleep to the point where I don't hear our son and forcing him to handle it. He found out yesterday while I was telling my sister about it on the phone. He blew up saying I'm playing childish games and not putting my son's needs first like I'm supposed to. I said I'm too tired of picking up this slack for 6 months and then being shamed for wanting him to help. He replied, "Boo-hoo, I get no credit for being a parent. I don't deserve a medal since I get up with the baby, not climb the Mount Everest." He literally said, "Just wait till my mom finds out what you've been doing to our son." The argument escalated and his mom called me neglectful towards her grandson and my husband's work. She said I was being unreasonable since getting up with the baby is my duty and hearing my son cry should wake the motherly instinct in me, but instead I was being petty and, like her son said, childish for pulling crap like this on a hard-working man who needs sleep to function at work. They both kept giving me heck for what I did, and husband had officially moved into the other room after he said he called my bluff, basically washing his hands on nightly childcare and leaving it all to me as a punishment for my disgraceful acts. The next story is by Henry8043. Am I the butthole for being annoyed when my nephew always orders the most expensive food on the menu? Whenever we go out to a family dinner, I always insist on paying, especially when it's with my father and mother-in-law. My 11-year-old nephew always sees this as a chance to order the most expensive menu options. Today at lunch, we all ordered entrees while he got the fanciest appetizer, starter, and a whole lobster to himself. When his lobster came, he took a bite and said, "I don't want it anymore, I'm full." I suggested he take it home, but he responded with, "I don't eat leftovers." I tried to hide my annoyance, but this continually happens every time we get together. I'm getting real sick of it, especially when my own meal costs me $20 and his ends up being like 120 each time. He'll always get the most expensive filet mignon steak or seafood and never finish. Am I the butthole for telling my wife to talk to her nephew to limit his ordering when we go out to dinner? I feel like they will call me a butthole for dictating what they order and that my insistence on paying shouldn't have any strings attached. That was r/Am I the butthole, and I will see you tomorrow. Thank you for listening and subscribe for more.